Welcome to the Freight Agent Insider Podcast, hosted by Levi Van Pay.
Hey, welcome in, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Freight Agent Insider. I'm your host, Levi. Glad to have you all back. It's going to be a fun one again today. But before we get into the fun stuff, if you could go subscribe Freight Agent Insider on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok. We are now officially on Apple Podcasts as well. That was a little bit more complicated than I thought it was going to be. But I'm glad we stepped into the 21st century and we are there. So if you have a iPhone or whatever, you're on Apple, you can watch the show right from there. Smash the bell icon for auto alerts to new episodes every Monday at 9 a.m. Central Time. If you have any questions for our agents that we have on the show, you can ask them live. Go to freightagentinsider.com, click the page, talk to us live, and you can pre-record a message. We'll play it live on the show, and we'll get it asked for you. If you want to become a freight agent yourself, again, freightagentinsider.com, you can start our Freight Agent Bootcamp, put together with all the latest, greatest tips from our agent guests. You get a 25% discount with code INSIDER. Yeah, all good stuff there. Serena Canline said that when I wear this, what do you call this thing? Whatever this thing is called. She said I look like I'm just wearing a vest, like Aladdin. Let's do a poll. We're going to do a poll on that, if she's right or not. I just thought all the cool kids in high school wore these things, so I started wearing it at age 33. I don't know. I didn't think it was all that, but what do I know? Okay. Anyways, today, I'm excited to get this rolling. I'm excited to introduce to everybody. She is a great freight agent, Lacey Lampel, everybody.
Nice to meet everybody. Hello.
Good to have you on the show, Lacey. How are you doing today?
I'm awesome. How are you?
I could be warmer.
Same.
That's
It's cold here in
Wisconsin.
Wilmington.
Yeah, I heard. I was talking with Chris Cobb. He's the president of the brokerage I work at, and he's out in North Carolina. And it's like, how's the weather out there, you guys? And he's like, it's freezing. I was like, oh, you're cold, are you?
Yeah, we
Come
got
on up
9
to the North
inches.
Pole with Papa here.
We got 9 inches over the weekend, so it is cold. Very
That's
much.
okay. Yeah, that's getting there. So outside of crappy weather, what's new in your world, Lacey?
Well, I've got some new clients that have onboarded recently, and I mean, honestly, that's about it. I'm also moving. You can't
Moving, are
see the
you?
mess beyond this, but I do have a lot of boxes in front of me that are just absolutely scattered throughout my apartments. But other than that, there is nothing really new.
Well, I would love to ask you about, your journey through freight. Before we started the show, you told me that you're a single mom, and you kind of told me about the move in part is moving closer to your daughter's school.
Yes.
There are a lot of listeners that we have that have similar situations that don't know if they can do this because of their time constraints, and you are doing it. So I'd love to hear about like your journey and maybe some of the challenges that you faced jumping into probably leaving a W-2 and becoming an agent, some of the challenges that you face as a single mom and how you're doing it.
I want to say, as a single mom, please do not be scared to pursue that dream of becoming your own boss and becoming your own agent and all of that. It is scary, and there are hurdles for sure. There are many hurdles to be overcome, but it is possible, and it is obtainable. Right now, um I have the ability to attend all of my daughter's activities and anything that she needs. But it was most definitely a hurdle to get there. but it is not unobtainable. Now I will say that persistency is key, and it is not a quick fix to anything. If you want to leave your W-2, you have to be absolutely committed to what you are doing. It is not a part-time position. It is not part-time work. Um, this comes with a lot of responsibility, and it also comes with knowing what you're doing with taxes and all of that. Like there's a lot to pursue, and there's also a lot of knowledge that comes with becoming independent from your W-2.
Yeah. Never get bogged down in the unknown. Like Lacey, you just mentioned a lot of things, the taxes and all of these various things. Dive in head first. If you're going to make the commitment, go for it and figure everything out along the way. But just as an example here, if you have no idea about 1099 taxes, those things, hop on an AI, Grok, Claude. These are completely free, and it will tell you everything you need to know. You will be an expert in a day. I'm telling you. So don't ever get, frightened out of trying this if you feel like you can, if you have the ability. Lacey, earlier you mentioned that your strong suits in freight are along the lines of drayage, box trucks, sprinter vans. How did you get started in that world? Did it start with because drayage is something not everybody does. Did you start with drayage and branched out to the other two, or how did it go?
I started with Drayage, and it was challenging, but I do think that it came with massive benefit later on. I was hired on from one of my father's daughter had a friend who was an agent for QFS, and she needed somebody to help her with the day-to-day operations. So she hired me on, and from there, I've learned everything, and it was very much in the fire. But I did learn everything from there, and eventually I had moved on to a different terminal as a dispatch manager for Port City Transportation here in Wilmington, and I loved it there. Also, they loved I was allowed to bring my daughter into the office too, which was also a perk,
Awesome.
and they loved my daughter and everything, but I had to leave there just because financially it didn't align with me and my needs and my daughter and all of that. So I went on to chemical tanking division at Robbie D. Wood, and I spent probably 6 to 7 months there. And if anybody knows me, I'm not good with chemistry at all. I failed chemistry in high school, and so that was definitely a lesson to be learned. But I learned a lot, and
If it makes you
eventually I
feel
was
any
like,
better, I almost failed English. If it makes you feel better.
ouch. Very ouch. I mean, you speak it well, so you wouldn't know, but for sure, like
Sorry
chemi
to derail you there.
Oh, no, it's good. No, it's good. I mean, English is important, and I'm sorry you failed that, but you wouldn't show up in today. Like, you would never
Hey,
know.
English
So,
English hard sometimes.
English is hard sometimes. Um, but yeah, so I went from chemical tanking, and then I was just like, I think I can do this on my own. So here I am, an independent agent 3 years later. But I was in box office transportation, like box office brokerages before I became independent. So there was a whole line there of just confusion and chaos. We'll call
And
that
then
chaos.
the dust settled and look where you're at now. I mean, it
Yes.
really is an incredible journey because everything you went through, the typical path is an exit of freight. Like a lot of people get so burned out with this that they say, screw all of that and adios. Um, Lacey, what are the biggest operational challenges you face day to day living in the drayage world? Because again, this is something that not everybody knows about. Drayage is a beast unto itself that isn't typical of just a full truckload.
Yeah. Day-to-day operational, I would say chassis availability and capacity availability from each carrier that you have assigned to each location. More prominently, depending on where your containers are coming out of, it is chassis availability if your carrier does not have or possess their own chassis, because they rely on pool chassis in which they have to rent. They have to make sure that there is availability for that. And if there is no availability, well, your container doesn't come out of the port. And
Simple as
then
that.
from there, simple as that. And then from there, if you can't find a carrier within the price range that you were looking for, well, that container sits at the port. And then from there, you obtain demurrage charges. So
Wow.
that is a
So
very big hurdle.
this is probably hurdle. Yes, exactly. This is probably a hurdle why more brokers aren't doing more drayage, I take it.
It is. The more carriers you have that can accommodate availability and chassis availability, the better your chances you have to get that container out of the port. And a lot of times the customer will um they will rely on the broker to be able to provide that availability. And sometimes you just you just not, if there's not chassis available, then there's just you're SOL. Like there's nothing I can do from my end, and there's nothing they can do from their end. But at the end of the day, it all falls on you.
And with that, how has the drayage market changed post pandemic? I imagine capacity is a big part of that.
For sure, at least on my end of things, rates have gone up dramatically and drastically. And um, sometimes the carrier is just like, well, we need more. We need, these are the layovers, these are the charges that are occurring. And the customer just, they don't want to hear any of that. They're just like, well, this is what you promised us. And I'm like,
That's right.
well, this is the availability that we have. And that's it. Like,
Yeah.
there's nothing I can do. There's nothing that the carrier can do. They just don't, they just don't.
Yeah. You're a
Don't
problem
know.
solver though, and this is why you make the big bucks, right? Like you're
Yes.
figuring it out.
So, if the carrier that I have does not have the capacity to pull the containers, or they don't have the chassis to pull the containers, then it is on me to find a carrier that can. And
Yep. Yep.
unfortunately, depending on where the container is coming out of, let's say some of the rails in like the Midwest or something like that, like there's only so much availability you can have with carriers, and
Right.
there's only so many carriers that are willing or have the capacity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's no chassis, then I can't, nobody can do anything about it. And that's it. And that is that. And as the liaison between the carrier and the customer, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place.
What do your customers think about your customers and yourself post Trump tariffs? I imagine imports have slowed down. I don't know, like I've never dealt with drayage, so this is all very fresh to me as well. Has that hurt customers? Has it hurt carriers? Has it hurt you?
It's hurt everybody involved. It is all around effective. It has affected everybody. Um, Carriers are asking more money because of the low volume, of course. And then customers, obviously they are incurring massive tariff charges. And me, as the broker, I have to try to find the balance between what is acceptable rates for a carrier and what will actually get it done. And then also my margins have decreased because the customer wants the lowest price possible, obviously, because of the increased tariffs.
That's right. Yeah. Is that kind of what caused you to branch out into like box truck sprinter van stuff, just diversifying everything away from just drayage, or how did you get into that?
Ironically, no. Um, I when I started as an independent agent, I was just kind of looking around and finding what was available and what would work for me, what I thought I could do and what I thought I could accommodate based on the carriers that had. And the first box truck customer that I've had, luckily they worked out. I met them in person here in Wilmington, and I've been with them for almost 3 years now. So it's all worked
That's
out, and that's just
incredible.
kinda how I got into it, and then, from there, it branched off into flatbed hot shots and sprinter vans, and, um, I kinda like that, area a little bit better. It comes with its own challenges, but it is less complicated than drayage.
Sure.
So I'd like more of that if I could.
Keep growing it. Keep growing it. I mean,
Yeah.
you start with like everybody I talk to who wants to become an agent or heck a broker in general, maybe at a W-2 place. The hardest part of this whole thing is just rolling the snowball, like building the little snowball nugget and then rolling it down the hill. But once you get momentum, boy, that's when things open up, you know?
Yes.
But it's not impossible. You're a great example of that. Like, just get through the BS in the beginning, grind it out, and you'll get to the clear skies. Like, fly through the storm, get above it. You'll be okay.
Yeah, so the first year and a half to 2 years is absolutely it is a struggle. It's a struggle because you're trying to gain your customers, maintain whatever schedule you might have, what you are available for, trying to figure out what niches that you um could perform or do effectively, and um honestly, just trying to keep your head above water with finances. That's a lot of it. And if I had any advice at all for somebody that was starting off in this, um, have some savings. Have savings,
Yeah,
at least six
yeah,
to 7 months of savings for. And I'm not just saying like additional spending money. I'm saying rent, electric, all of your bills. Okay, have 6 months of savings saved up for that, because it's
that's
gonna
a
take you
great
some
tip.
time to collect customers.
Yep, that's a great tip. Absolutely.
New customer lockdown.
All right, L Dog. Earlier, you alluded to a couple new customers that you've onboarded recently.
Mhm.
Talk to us about it. Were they drayage based? How did you get
They
them?
are Yes, they are drayage based, and, they are they are a blessing in my life. They came by at the right time, but they are also very complicated. There are a lot of hurdles that they expect, to be resolved, and not necessarily resolved, but they are looking for solutions that they have not been able to, acquire prior. So, and a lot of those are unfortunately chassis availability. And do find it a challenge myself to provide that kind of availability, and they're looking for a guarantee which I can't. There's no there is no drayage carrier out there that will absolutely guarantee chassis availability. So I cannot provide them with chassis availability on a
Why is
guarantee.
that? Why is that, Lacey? Why can't they guarantee it?
It really just depends. I mean, they might have their chassis tied up for another customer, and if
Sure.
they have to go to a chassis pool to obtain that chassis, well, there might be a shortage, or, there's multiple things that can occur with, chassis availability, and it's also carrier availability, driver availability as well. So even if they could even if they could obtain a carrier or driver, there's no guarantee that the chassis is going to be availability once they get to the port or the chassis pool. And if they do obtain the chassis, there's no guarantee that they're going to be able to return the container in a timely manner based on availability.
Sounds like you're doing God's work with drayage because it just sounds like an absolute convoluted. It's a lot. There's a lot going on there. I guess.
Yes.
I guess. Okay, so somebody that's out there, maybe they've got an in with drayage, or they're looking to start, diversifying into drayage. What advice would you give somebody in that position who wants to get their feet wet?
I would highly suggest getting your feet wet in a drayage terminal because the amount of information, critical information that you need for drayage. I don't believe that you're going to obtain that from any brokerage.
Interesting.
Absolutely not. I would suggest getting your hands very dirty and stepping into the realm of the trucking side of drayage before you even attempt to get into drayage as a broker because there are too many rules, too many regulations, too many stipulations. You better know about steamship lines, you better know about vessels, you better know about container sizes, chassis rules. You better know about ports and how each port operates. Like there's just so much and I would not encourage anybody as a broker to step into that realm brand new. Absolutely not.
Yeah, that sounds like one that if you get a customer on the phone and they need some drayage work done, not agreeing to it until you know what's going on with this. And this is something I've mentioned on this show before. Obviously, again, starting is the hardest part, but once you get your foot in the door and you start moving with some mode or a specific niche commodity that you're moving, you get better and better at it. And that becomes your sales pitch is, hey, I do this. This is my world I live in. And Lacey, like for you, you're a perfect example of this, started on the drayage side. That's the world you live in. Not everybody can do what you do. So for somebody that is looking to, you made a perfect point. Somebody that's looking to do this, whether it's drayage, whether it's just getting into the industry, starting is the hardest part, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. All right, Lacey, are you ready for the next little bit here?
Horror stories and pitfalls.
Horror stories and pitfalls.
Uh, I don't have a lot of carrier horror stories, not really, because I do spend a lot of time vetting my carriers. Obviously, like you can't avoid everything. You just don't know a carrier or a driver until, you know, things go down in real life. But
Right.
and that happens to the best of us. But I do have some customer horror stories, and
Those
they
are the
didn't last
spiciest
long.
ones.
So I had one customer approach me on LinkedIn and they were really very like gung ho and let's get this ball rolling and
Mhm.
I quoted them on a few things and their first response was, "Whoa, that's really expensive." And I said, "Well, just to get them through the door." I said, "Okay, well, maybe I can bring it down a few dollars." And I did, just to get my foot through the door. And, the loads went through successfully and my margin was cut quite significantly.
Mhm.
And then he asked for more quotes and stuff like that. And then I said, I gave them the quote and without compromising my own commissions, right? And he said, "Well, these are just too expensive." And I said, "Well, I can't compromise on both at this point. Like
Right.
the last few loads that I did for you, I made a whopping $35." And he goes, "Well, you just don't understand logistics then, and you just haven't been in it that long."
Just nothing
I
like a
have
little logistics misogyny in the morning to really get you revved up, right?
Yeah, but you know what? It's okay because I told them no, and then like a couple weeks later they were like, "Hey, can you give me a rate for this?" And I said, "No, I can't because you can't afford me." And that hurt his
Yeah.
ego really bad.
That's as simple as it is. First of all, guy reaches out to you. you got to ask yourself, like, the red flags of a customer reaching out to you initially. Maybe it's because they don't have anybody else, because they can't afford anybody else, right? So it's not always the case, but don't let the gold bars spinning in behind your eyeballs like override common sense. And I mean that was a real customer, but there's a lot of fake customers out there doing the same things. And I've gotten to witness firsthand a couple agents get burned really badly with fake customers and scammer loads. Like, it's a real thing. You gotta keep your head on a swivel.
For real. That's a real challenge. That's real.
Freight Agent Insider Tips for Success.
What do you got for us?
Well, the first one would be consistency with trying to onboard customers. There is a lot of hurdles around kind of cold calling and emails, but the more genuine you are on phone calls and emails and maybe even through LinkedIn, which is honestly how I obtain most of my customers, I feel like the more people that you might attract and if you reach out to people, the more they're going to be open to onboarding you or at least exploring quotes. The second one would be, again, don't give up.
Mm,
This is a process and it is not a fast track to loads of money. This is a whole process. It is slow and it is tedious, but I find that within year 2 or 3, things really
mhm,
start to pick up. Your reputation starts to pick up. Sometimes there's word of mouth even. So if this is something that you truly want in your heart and in your soul, and you know that you can do it, believe in it and keep going for it. Myself, there have been times where there have been successes and then there have also been major failures. Please learn from those. The failure is not um it's not something to say, well, maybe I should give up on this. Something that I feel
for
that you
sure.
can learn from and then continue on. This can be a very successful realm of income and a very good career for those who are seeking it, but you have to be persistent about it. Mm. The other thing is beware of RFPs. It might look very appealing, but make sure that if you do submit an RFP that is it is sustainable throughout the entire year. Make sure your
Why does
margins
it feel like they're just a waste of time? Like,
a lot of times a lot of times they are because
yeah,
they are looking for the lowest rate and those low rates are not sustainable throughout the year because
right,
market trends, market rates fluctuate throughout the year. And it
right.
really just kind of depends on the commodity, and it might be seasonal. Like you just really, it's really unpredictable. But the customer still expects that you can be able to haul those loads and get those loads done for the price that you had given them. I probably would stay away from RFPs for the rest of my life
Mm,
if I could. Mm,
yeah.
Big,
Do you
big
do you do
customers
them?
come with big responsibility and also
Right.
sometimes big consequences. That's not for me.
Yeah, man, I've been in the, freight world now for about 5 years working with agents, and I don't know if I've ever actually seen a successful RFP bid. I don't know. I mean, it just always seems like a crapshoot.
Yeah. If you win an RFP, I feel like you have to have a really good, very good connection as a broker if
Yeah,
you are not a carrier.
yeah,
Yes.
probably. Wow, look at that. We are at we're at 30 minutes on the dot. That's a good point to wrap it up. If everybody could please, how about this? I'll give you $1 million if you go like, subscribe, follow YouTube, TikTok, what else? Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you guys can all go, and hey, I'll give you an extra million if you leave a positive review on those things. I can't give you the million until Bill Gates buys the podcast, which we did hit. We did hit 2,000 followers on LinkedIn, which is pretty cool. Small wins, big dreams. Go for it. Lazy, thank you so much for joining. We'll circle
Thank
back
you for
in
having me.
anytime. We'll circle back in a couple of months if you didn't hate this experience, we'll get you back on here and see how things have changed for you.
I don't have any tomatoes on me, so
Inside joke. All right. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time.
thanks. Bye.
Thank you for watching the Freight Agent Insider Podcast. Like us and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, TikTok, and LinkedIn.